Jeez Louise, you guys are really keen to hear about what I'm planning design-wise for my new home, which I'm not at yet, as you can tell. Soon, very soon, I'll be updating you, don't worry. Now, after we did that video about the color palette for the new house, we got a lot of messages on our Instagram asking me about which design style I plan to be most inspired by when I'm finding things for the house. The truth is, I try to find inspiration in so many different things, aka YouTube, just like you. And I often find myself fluctuating from one style to the next on a regular basis. That being said, I do find myself gravitating towards a couple of my favorite interior design styles that I really want to incorporate in some form or fashion. But I can't use them all because I'm not ready to go eclectic yet. Let's go over my 5 favorite design styles, 3 of which I'll be using heavily in the new house. But James, 3? What about the 80-20 rule? Don't worry, I'll get to that. So starting with some honorable mentions. These are design styles that I appreciate, but don't think I will get the chance to feature extensively, if at all. The first one being modern. Now, I've always had an appreciation for modern architecture and design. I love the notion of futurism and forward thinking and taking creativity in drastically different directions. But I don't necessarily see myself wanting to live in that environment at home. It might be cool to visit a place like that, I don't know. But day to day, I think that kind of cold, somewhat empty feeling of modern doesn't necessarily mesh with my personal aesthetic. I'm far from being a hoarder, but I like having things. I like accumulating interesting pieces that I'm proud to show off and maybe that remind me of different times in my life. And I also can't really afford the upkeep of constantly re-upping on those uber expensive avant-garde pieces that modern design loves. So even though I'll have some modern influence sprinkled in, it'll be present in the form of other design styles that we'll get to in a little bit. The next honorable mention has to go to Mid-Century Modern. This is a design style that is having a complete renaissance. Honestly, it hasn't really ever gone out of style for me because it's retro, it's vintage, it's stylish, but it's still comfortable and lived in. There are some really awesome furniture pieces you'd be lucky to find at a local trade show, online, or at auctions, maybe the odd garage sale if you're lucky. You can also find brand new mid-century modern inspired furniture as well, which is obviously much more attainable, but in an ideal world, I would obviously prefer picking up those legitimate 50, 60, or even 70-year-old furniture pieces to really capture the essence of the times. I definitely do not have anything close to that in my collection as of now. I'm sort of starting from a somewhat clean slate here. I also find that mid-century modern is one of those design styles that really benefits from corresponding architecture. And the home that I'm moving into is nearly brand new. I mean, we're talking a couple years old. The third design style is another one that really benefits from a matching architectural style, and that's industrial. So obviously coming from a hard loft that I'm in right now, I really grew attached to that industrial aesthetic with the exposed ceilings and the concrete floors. But that doesn't mean I can't reincorporate industrial design into my next home, even though it's not very industrial looking. There is one part of the home that is absolutely made for it, and that's the basement. I won't go into too much detail in today's video, but essentially I'm going to transfer the vibes and the energy of this loft into my basement. So you may recognize a couple of pieces, and honestly, it's gonna look really cool. Super pumped. The second last design style is one of my primary styles that I plan on using. It's more of the, I guess, default template that everything is built on, and it's a style that contains some structure with some more contemporary elements. It's, of course, transitional, which is the style that bridges the gap between traditional and our old friend modern. I like it because of its familiarity and its overall comforting feeling, but I also gravitate towards those cleaner lines and harsh edges. I think there is some familiarity with transitional design that makes me feel at home, yet still a little up to date. Again, I want to reiterate that this is going to be my home, and it's a space that I want to be proud to show off, but also be happy to hang out in day to day. So instead of going with full modern, I'll just incorporate it through transitional and call it a day. Now the final style, this is what really sets it off for me. It's a little minimalist, a little rustic, but very comforting and warm. It's not quite Scandi, it's Hyuga. Now, Hyuga isn't specifically a design style, although it sort of has become one, especially on this side of the world. It's actually a Danish concept of warmth and coziness, kind of a feeling of friendship and comfort. Scandi design can sometimes end up being flooded with white, but by injecting Hyuga, you start to see more warm colors, some richness, some natural materials like rattan, wool, rope, and definitely wood. Lots of textures to really draw you in and make you feel at home. And that's exactly the way I want to feel in mine. I'll be sure to update you all as I start accumulating things, and it's all very exciting. Now, here's a Scandi color palette that can be applied to a home that is feeling a bit Hyuga. I love that word.